Meanwhile, extremists, dangerous. Is that the picture the White House is hoping to paint, not just for the Tea Party, but the Republican Party heading into the midterm elections? A report to say says that it is. The connection could start showing up in political ads pronto. Now, the White House denies it to a guy who could be bearing the brunt of it, Republican Rand Paul, of course, running for U.S. Senate in Kentucky. Rand, good to have you back.
Good to be with you, Neil. You know, if the president wants to take on the Tea Party, I've got a plane ticket with his name on it. Send him on down to Kentucky. He can start here.
You know, it isn't the first time the Tea Parties in general have been painted as extremists or kooks or both. I guess the difference now, Rand, would be that this is a more concerted, organized effort and one that would lump Republicans right in with them. Are you worried?
Well, the problem is the things that I talk about and the Tea Party talks about are concern for the debt, that we think they should have to balance the budget by law, that we think we should have term limits, that we think they should read the bills before they vote on them. All of the things I talk about, if you actually poll them with independents and Democrats, 70–80% of Democrats are for what I'm talking about. People know that government's broken, and they want to call us a name, but it's not working because who thinks that a balanced budget amendment is an extreme idea?
Do you think that should Republicans gain power in the House or the Senate, or both, that Tea Partiers will be as vigilant attacking excesses among Republicans as they have been among Democrats?
Absolutely. Every Tea Party meeting that I've been to across Kentucky, the one question they'll ask you is, if the Republicans are wrong, will you vote against them? They do not want a rubber stamp. They do not want just any old Republican. They want someone who will stand up and say, it's a nightmare. This deficit is consuming our country. It's an enormous burden for the future, but it's also a big weight now because we're trying to find money to create jobs, and the government's out competing private business. And so that message is strong. And if I go to Washington and I don't vote the way the Tea Party wants, they've already said they have my number. They will call me.
Now, they do have a couple of sort of litmus issues. I don't know if you'd want to call it that, Rand, but among them is repealing the health care law. Are you for repealing it outright?
Yes, I think we should start over. I think that a lot of us recognize that there were problems, pre-existing conditions, portability, but there was a fork in the road, and we could have gone one of two directions. President Obama went in the direction of a government takeover of most aspects of health care. What I would have been in favor of was more competition, trying to make health insurance more like term life insurance, so you have multi-year policies and your rates don't go up if you become sick and they can't drop you because you have a multi-year policy. There were other ways to go about this that involved more capitalism. Instead, we went to a bigger government model. It's going to be enormously expensive. My own premiums just went up 15% last week. And so I'm hearing it all across Kentucky. We're in the midst of a recession, 10% unemployment, and they're going to tell businesses that now they have to spend more for their health insurance. It will lead to higher unemployment.
What do you think of those firms that have hiked their premiums 15%? Kathleen Sebelius, the Health and Human Services Secretary, says effectively she has their name and number and will remember that, and that is egregious for them to even try that. What do you say?
Well, the reason they're going up is because they're going to have additional costs. The bill says that you can't deny anyone coverage and you can't make people pay different rates according to whether they're sick or not. It also says that we have to cover young people until they're 26 on their parents' policies. Now, we may be in favor of a lot of these things. We may want this to be the ultimate outcome, but it costs money to insure people. 30 million new people costs money to insure people. It will be a lot more than they ever intended, and we will pay for it. The problem is it's going to hurt jobs and it's going to create unemployment in the midst of a very tenuous economy.
If you had a choice as Senator Rand, should you get elected, so it's between extending the tax cuts for everybody, but only the middle class. In other words, it was that. You know, you're going to either lose them all or you're just going to see the ones extended on the middle class and below. How would you vote?
Well, I want to keep fighting for extending them for everyone.
I know that, but it might come down to that choice. What would you do?
You're right, it might know, and I haven't thought through exactly what happens if you get a choice you don't want. I know a lot of times in Washington you get a choice you don't want, but you know the other thing
well,
that
John
I will
Boehner, the
add
reason why I
to the
mentioned
Bush
John
tax
Boehner
cuts-
said if push came to shove, his original reaction to that was, well, I guess I'd have to go with the middle class cut. Now, Mitch McConnell later came on, the guy who originally opposed your party opponent, said, well, no, it's either for everybody or nobody. Effectively, that was what he said. What would you say?
The problem with giving up early on is that the engine of job creation is coming from those people who make $200,000 and more. It's a large percentage. I've seen statistics saying 70 to 80% of the new jobs are coming from people who make more than $200,000 a year.
So everybody
so
or
really,
nobody? Everybody. It sounds like you're saying everybody.
I think that's so. Well, at least right now, if you're
Okay.
talking about your initial bargaining point, you go for what you think is best and not go ahead and tell people what the middle ground is you'll settle for. But I'll tell you what I would do differently that none of them are talking about. The Democrats are carping, saying, oh, it'll cost the government $800 billion. What I would do is, sure, let's go ahead and come up with some spending cuts. If they want to come up with spending cuts, I'm right there with them. Let's do some spending cuts also.
Rand Paul, thank you very much. Good seeing you again. Out of Bowling Green, Kentucky, Rand Paul, the Republican running for Senate in Kentucky. By the way, we did call his Democratic opponent, Jack Conway. As of yet, no response. Meanwhile, on our website today,